Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you for joining us. So we see that it's gone over 1 million confirmed cases with, almost 25%, according to the stats, the official stats out of Johns Hopkins. 25% just about in the U.S. That's pretty big deal. Wouldn't you say?
That's a really big deal. Really big.
And of course, people are so divided about this, just as everybody is so divided about everything on this planet. And that's too bad, because we have to work past that. And they're so divided as to, whether there is a virus, there isn't a virus. And we see some people in society doing, obviously not their best in many cases, and others are doing their best, and they're trying to pull others up. These times are going to definitely test us. And if we look at all the religious traditions, if you look at ancient Egypt, basically one's soul in the afterlife is weighed and compared to a feather. And so, depending on what we do, it affects not just our lives, but everybody's lives around us, how we act, what we do, especially in cases like this. Like we had just saw some guy on Twitter thinking it was a joke to open up a whole bunch of drinks and take one sip out of each of them. It's just atrocious behavior, unfortunately, that we see, because we really, this is going to separate us even more, according to how we act, how we respond to this. Are we trying to be in service to others, or are we completely being self-serving? So every person has their own decisions to make in this.
They do, and it is up to you to dig deep and look into your heart and understand what your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are toward the next person. And are you wishing for things that are in their best interest, or what's going to make you feel good?
Exactly. And so we have the U.S. with 242,182 cases. And so if that's doubling every 4 days roughly, then you're going to be looking at 500,000 cases. In about 4 days' time, about eight days' time, you're going to be looking at 1 million cases in the U.S. It's, again, some people don't think this is real at all. And there's a lot of people that are calling out certain things and saying, okay, well, let's address it over here. They're saying, why are the emergency rooms empty? Well, depending on where you're at, it could be a very, very different situation. And for one, as we see in this article, they talk about, COVID sufferers, people that are suffering with the disease, are separated and isolated into their own section, at least initially, until we get to the point where, we've seen these hospitals with, so many people, 5 times as many people in rooms as they're supposed to be, and the halls filled with them. And there are tons of videos circulating showing, bodies stockpiled and bodies in the streets in Ecuador, and we've seen that in Iran, we've seen that in Italy, we've seen that in China, we've seen it all over. Now we're seeing it in New York City, tons of videos coming out. And, some people think that all those are just, they're Hollywood productions with crisis actors. I think that's doing a disservice, though, because what if they're wrong? And what if a handful of people, decide, oh, this is all BS? And so they go out and there is a virus, and say they get infected, and then with the rate of infection, they might have killed hundreds and thousands of people, which is all karmic. It's going to come back on them. So, I think it's doing a huge disservice to tell people that, this is all complete BS. Are there agendas underway? I think most of us think there are a lot of agendas underway. Are we going to see a new monetary system? Probably. Are we seeing new laws affected? Yeah, there's tons of new laws coming in. And we're heading towards more and more of, it's just going into more of an Orwellian police state every single quote unquote crisis that comes.
And everywhere you go, it's the same thing too. I mean, all of this Orwellian stuff isn't just here. It's everywhere. It's Italy, it's China, it's around the globe.
So as we see here, people are losing their shifts. There are a lot of doctors and nurses in some areas that, now they're not able to work, just like so many other people are not able to work. Because when we look at, around, let's just go into the U.S., and if you look up the eastern seaboard, there's a lot of red dots. So, you grab Hudson, New Jersey, 2,270 cases. And if we jump over into New York, over 50,000 cases, 51,809. Now, if we, jump over into some other areas, perhaps where things are a little bit more spread out, here's Gove, Kansas. I don't even know how many people are there. One case, So, nonetheless, everybody's kind of on lockdown, right? So, you're going to have people here. There's probably hardly anybody in the hospital. It's probably a skeleton crew in the hospital, depending on what state you are in, where you're located. As we see here, San Juan, Utah, 11 confirmed, 11 actives. And over here in Tuele, Utah, 13. But, obviously if you go into the big cities, it's a different case. LA, 4,000. But boy, that's a big difference between LA and New York. But then again, this whole area is so congested, so heavily populated with people. Like my home area, Fairfield, Connecticut, 2,132 cases. So, and again, it depends. Like if you're up in Litchfield, 141. So you might have, something up in this area where maybe, people are twiddling their thumbs. And in other areas, they're going crazy. And so, again, I think it's irresponsible to get people thinking that there isn't a virus, so that maybe they end up taking chances that they shouldn't be taking. And as we've talked about FIVE, we've talked about all these things. Everybody knows. And I know a lot of people, just because I get so many videos where people say, this is it, you gotta watch this. And it's like, yeah, we've talked about that 50 times. Everybody's talked about that. I understand people are all trying to figure it out, but then there's some YouTubers that I watched a few of them, and they're just coming right out and saying that, it's not real, there's no virus, or if it is a virus, it's going to just give you a cold. And they're saying probably the only people that are dying are in hospitals exposed to other people and perhaps other high-intensity frequencies. And I do suspect that there's a variety of factors that go into why certain areas would be worse than others. Congestion, just population congestion, number one. And then we've talked about the effects of frequency on the body and pollution on the body. So all these things add up for sure, because it is extremely unusual the way some people are passing on all over the globe. Now I've seen videos pretty much from every continent, where it seems like people were relatively healthy or at least able to get around. Not like you're, in bed with the flu and you can't get up, but I mean they're walking the street and then they're dead, just like that. So is there something else going on too? I really think there is something else going on, but I just think that we have to keep our minds open. And everybody should play it safe. Don't take chances. Play it safe. Play it safe. Play it safe. Treat it as if it is, the most infectious virus we've ever seen. And just play it safe. Don't you agree?
I would say play it safe and let's just get through this next couple of weeks, whatever's in store for us. I know Trump said some ominous things, but maybe, he just wanted to set us up for worst case scenarios. So maybe it won't be so bad. We'll just get through it.
So you see, CDC is expected to announce soon as Thursday that all Americans should wear cloth masks or other face coverings if they go out in public, period. And to touch on some of the other numbers, you see Italy has less than half the cases the U.S. does now. 115,242, Spain 112,065. And so, this is starting to apparently slow a little bit over there, and these two have obviously suffered a lot. And you see the deaths in Italy, 13,915. And again, we get reports that that's vastly underestimated. And then Spain, 10,348. And France is next in deaths with 5,387. If we're looking at cases, then it's Germany. They're ahead of China, at least officially. And then you have China and France and Iran. And then you go to the UK. And then we go all the way down to 11,229 in Canada, and Australia has 5,116. And so we're showing 1,397 in the United States, with the United Kingdom having more than twice the amount. So there's supposedly 8 different strains out there right now, 8 different mutations, 7 mutations plus the original. So it is interesting to see the big differences between the number of cases and the deaths, the death rates. Apparently very, very different in different areas. And then a lot of people are saying, but I don't know anybody that has this, and all we could do is share that we do, we do. We have one, dear friend that is right at the cusp of perhaps not being here. And so we were just working on that person energetically and hope to hear that they're feeling better tomorrow. It's real. And another good friend over in the UK, one that we've talked about a million times, he's there, his wife is positive, and they're taking care of 3 other people that are positive. And so they're seeing this firsthand. And there's a lot of other ones. I have talked about one in Ecuador that has seen bodies everywhere, and they just don't know what to do with them, as well as other locations. So, I'm getting accounts from people, and I just talked to a friend down in Costa Rica, in the tiny, tiny little village they're in, there's been cases. People are terrified, she said. And, gladly enough for them down there that they could grow food year round, and they could grow almost anything down there. The soil's rich and the weather's perfect. So everybody, has a lot of things to deal with, and we have, all of us have our own issues to deal with as well. And everybody should be planting. Hopefully everybody's planting wherever they can, any way they can. Hopefully they did some prepping, at least had some potting soil, something to work with there. But yeah, I could definitely tell you, I know people that would verify that this is really real, and quite a few of them. And we see now a man found dead on a subway train. So apparently he thought he was going to be fine enough to get to work or get out shopping or whatever, but he wasn't. So this was the N train, and this is New York again. 62-year-old found dead on train. We've seen this all around the globe. And we see here shocking scenes in Orlando, half-mile line at cars waiting for a food bank. After the theme park shut down, put out thousands out of work. There's so many people going to be out of work. And let's pray that people are nice to each other. And obviously there's some people that are not going to be there, going to take advantage of the situation and even look at things like a joke, and unfortunately that's a very sad, kind of demonic way to look at things when you really look at it. This is a time for everybody to be picking each other up, working together. And, you got lines of cars. Now there's so many people that, did not prepare at all. And even those of us that prepared, you're going to have a gap. No fresh fruits for who knows when. And no fresh veggies for perhaps a long period of time. This is clearly a time to come together. And here you see the graphs. New York area appears to be the worst of any of the metros that we've seen so far. any of them, even worse than Wuhan. Of course, the numbers there were horribly underreported. But you can see here, Madrid's kind of tapering off, Catalonia a little bit. Yeah, they're starting to curve out. New York is still going pretty damn strong, and it's just so densely populated. And I know there's a lot of people that love President Trump, but clearly he was saying at one point in time, look, we only had 15 cases, I'm not worried about this. And yet now we have more than twice as many as any other country.
Yeah, he keeps saying things like that, and then then he's wrong. So we can't trust our leadership. We can trust ourselves and what we truly believe in our heart, and that's where we got to stay.
And we're speaking about President Trump because he's the acting president, and so he's really changed his position on this thing now. Yet we don't support Pelosi or Schumer or any of these guys that are all part of the machine when you get down to it. And here you see China concealed extent of virus outbreak, U.S. intelligence says. And again, there's that thought. If I had to guess, I would say this was a bioweapon. That would be my guess. I think it is real. I think it is a bioweapon. I think there's other things going on as well. And so then you get into the case of, well, who released it for what purpose? And as we've talked about on pretty much every one of these lives covering the virus situation, go back to 2005, Chinese general then said that this is exactly what they would do before any sort of open conflict with the U.S. They would set a bioweapon out. They said that's why they're not building aircraft carriers. We're putting our money into bioweapons. And you got to ask yourself, why does the world allow this? Why does the world allow this, in the first place? Why do the citizens of the world allow this?
I don't know. I'm at a loss.
I agree. U.S. Army rolls into Seattle with field hospital built for combat. And, we're going to be getting used to this. This is a different world we live in, guys. It's a totally different world now, and we did see this coming. So the Navy relieved the captain who raised alarm about coronavirus outbreak on an aircraft carrier. He wanted all the people taken off besides 10% of the crew, which would just be a skeleton crew enough to keep it going. And so, he's been relieved. They relieved him of his duties, and that was the USS Theodore Roosevelt, Captain Brett Crozier, who commands the Roosevelt. And there's a crew of 5,000, so they could run it with 500. And that's what he wanted to do because he said there's a horrible outbreak going on there. Now, is that something that could notify your enemy that, hey, if they did, let the virus out on purpose, that, hey, it's working? Yeah, obviously. So, but at the same time, he was just probably looking to protect his people. So everybody will have to make their own decision on that one as well. Meanwhile, we see China chasing Indonesia's fishing fleets, staking claim to the sea's riches. So look at the moves going on now. And, there's reports about them building up military action to strike perhaps Venezuela, perhaps Iran now. Talking about the U.S., there's a lot of rumors about that going. I don't think it'll be a typical response if that does happen now. I think we are looking at the likelihood of direct conflict has gone way up now.
Yeah, it's like increasing like a pimple, like something's going to pop, you can only apply so much pressure before the seal breaks.
We had this Venezuelan warship shooting and ramming into a German cruise vessel, and then it sank, not the cruise vessel, but the warship sank because this cruise vessel was basically geared for going up where there's a lot of icebergs, so it had double hulls. And, again, when you talk about a Venezuelan warship, was it like 4 guys in a rowboat? With a wooden ram. You got to watch the reality behind the wording of things. And of course, there's been so many false flags throughout history as well. It appears that that's part of what's going on. So why are so many more men dying from coronavirus? And, basically this article gets into the genetics of it and the fact that women just have a longer lifespan. And if you break it down to different categories, at every age, they tend to outlive men. But if it was something that was biologically manufactured, most military, not every person in the military, but most people in the military are men. In this world now, there are quite a few women in the military too. So you would think that maybe having it tailored towards males would make sense. And then we see here, China seizes COVID-19 advantage in the South China Sea. They're ramping up military drills and energy exploitation in a contested waterway, while the U.S. military is bogged down in virus crisis at home. This is playing out just like a movie. It's playing out just like a movie, and we kind of know what's going to happen next. Many of you guys have reached out to me and have had the same dreams, same visions I always had. It does feel like a military conflict is on the way, and that this is like, okay, well, we're watching a Red Dawn scenario here. You still have North Korea shooting off a rocket every now and then. And, if they blame the EMP on North Korea at first, making it look like they acted on their own, then, that would give other countries time to avoid a direct response until they had everything situated in place. So now we're seeing the dragon wake up over here.
Yes, you guys. I mean, look at all this stuff going on. It's just getting crazy. I don't even know where to start or stop anymore. It's like one thing happens and it flows into the energy of the next thing. It's just, wow.
Yeah, and as you see here, rival Southeast Asian claimants are also in compromised strategic positions as they contend with the worsening outbreaks. And, obviously China's population is, almost like 5 times that of the U.S., just for instance. So, acceptable losses? Perhaps. Remember, all the rulers, they always look at, the military as expendable pawns, and also civilians as well. And here you see U.S. military operations in South China Seas increase risk of confrontation, think tank says. This is out of the South China Morning Post. So in 2019, the American forces conducted 8 freedom of navigation operations, 3 more than the previous year. And Beijing says its Air Force and Navy held a joint exercise in the South China Sea on March 10th to simulate face-to-face encounters with invading aircraft and warships. So yeah, the war drums are beating. We could see that. That's part of everything that's going on too. Meanwhile, it's not just the military, because the military is affected by this, but we see the police departments are really being heavily impacted in certain areas. Michigan police not physically responding to some calls in order to avoid coronavirus spread. And over here you see 2,900 New York City Fire Department members are currently out sick. So 282 so far have tested positive for CV19. And that includes EMS as well, and civilians. And, it's in the police departments, as we said, have been hard hit too. And here you have now a spokesman saying Harvey Weinstein never tested positive. And we also had a video that was put out by Prince Charles, who tested positive, saying he's overcome it. And how does that old guy overcome it so easily? Yeah. Did he ever really test positive? I'm skeptical.
I'm highly skeptical.
When it comes to all the elites, I think these reports of the elites getting it at the highest level, I'm really, really skeptical about that. Baltimore Spending Board approved surveillance plane pilot program. So now you're going to have them watching people above, capturing images from above of perhaps people that are not, effectively following the rules. Surveillance state keeps increasing. And we see death in the Holy Land. Coronavirus changes burial customs for Jews and Muslims because they really have no choice with what's happening. So again, when people look at this and they say the 2009 H1N1 outbreak, and they just look at these numbers, you got to realize these numbers are not even close to right. So when people start quoting stuff like that, we know how underreported they've been. There's a lot of evidence. 21 million Chinese people suddenly walked away from their cell phones. That is not something that's likely to happen. And then, we've seen complete little almost cities of burial grounds over in Iran that you could see from satellite. There's so many of them. And all these bodies in the streets everywhere that would now really, like we were talking about Ecuador, but other places too. So, chances are those numbers are vastly, vastly underreported. And then this is the other big part of it. It's installing a new financial system, and there's starting to become calls for basically, laying the groundwork for a global system. That's obvious. We could see that coming around. And I bet you anything it'll be 100% digital, so that you can't pay under the table for your neighbor down the street to go and do something for you, do a little carpentry job or what have you. All those days are going to be gone. And that's all part of making sure that everything is under absolute, complete control. Complete. And so you got 30% of all mortgages that are going to default. This is going to just blow away anything we've ever seen. And so, the bottom line is we're going to come out into a world that's much more Orwellian than the one that we were in already, which was pretty damn Orwellian.
Yeah, it was pretty bad to begin with. And I mean, if the IRS are going to let us wait until July to pay our taxes, it must be for a very worthy reason, because they never turn down money.
And they're going to throw $2,000 our way to make us happy.
Right. So that's just wrong.
And Bill Gates calls for a nationwide social isolation policy. Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like they want to make him the president of the planet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have anything good to say there. So we'll move on. So we have a lot of people seeing strange lights, and this was from California down to Mexico. In the line, orbs flying above the skies of San Diego. And now with the Elon Musk's satellites up there, who knows what they are doing in reality. Everything's going to be just basically blamed on, it's got to be the Starlink satellites. Everything's got to be the Starlink satellites now.
Everything. It's only the Starlink satellites, guys.
We see some really curious stuff out there on a nightly basis and a daily basis, too. There's a lot more in the sky than just us. That's for sure. Now, this is Nassim Harriman, who is one of the great minds on the planet. He really is. He's just a brilliant guy. And if you want to learn about quantum physics and science and what we can actually do with consciousness, he's awesome. Great to listen to. So this is Resonance Science and Resonance Academy. He went and he made it all free now. So if you want to learn, you could take these science courses for free. That's pretty damn cool. And I want to hope and believe that this is going to be part of what's going to start to change in this world. And, in line with like that type of thought, we, have changed things as well. And so this is our website, Evolutionary Energy Arts. And there's a lot of different services that we have over there, such as energy work, biofield tuning. We've been doing a lot more work all the time on more and more people, as the need for healing and the need for Cindy and I's abilities is growing. So what we decided to do, and you see some of the other things we do as well, what we decided to do was basically to do everything on a donation basis. And this is what I wanted to do from the beginning. Perhaps I still had a little bit of fear, in myself as far as the universe taking care of me. But now, I don't. I really don't have any fear. So, we operate on a donation basis where people could pay through Ko-Fi and PayPal. And, just whatever they could afford is fine, and we'll work on them. So if anybody's interested in, getting energy work done, we've done amazing things with it, and have tons of people that could, back that up as well. There's so much you could do with energy work. I think it could save lives. I have absolutely no doubt about that, because I've worked on so many people that have gone through allopathic medicine and their doctors couldn't do anything else for them. Tried everything else, and I've been able to help them in the past many times. And so if you guys are so interested, just reach out to us at evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. And if anybody's interested in supporting on Patreon or Ko-Fi, we'd appreciate that as well. Make sure you are subscribed to EE Arts. That's the primary channel, as I'm going to be doing more videos up over there. And so do subscribe there as well. And we want to thank you guys for your support. As always, stay safe out there and stay positive, because we will get through this together.
We will, you guys. God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.